there was going to be a comedic, animated live action hybrid, a Roger Rabbit type film called what is it? Acme v Coyote. Is that the Coyote v Acme? And it was based on a comedic essay years ago. Wile E. Coyote suing the Acme Corporation. It's a Looney Tunes film. John Cena was the lead live action star, and James Gunn co-wrote and was producing this film. So this was a movie we had talked about it on this show, I think, when it was announced. It was one of those ideas that were like, this sounds fun. And it's already made. It's already been screening. Test screenings have been going out, and the announcement came out that it was Batgirl. Warner Brothers is shelving it, not to send it to cable, not to send it to HBO. It will never be seen. It is in the Jerry Lewis Holocaust Clown movie vault to never be seen again, to get a $30 million tax write-off on a movie that I think cost like $80 or $90 million, like in that range. And it was supposed to be a theatrical release, and instead they're taking a $30 million tax write-off to never use it in any way ever. And
now, wait, are you sure that budget was that high?
Maybe it was less. It might have been.
Wasn't it a $40 million budget?
That probably makes more sense. It was in that range. I don't think it could be any lower than that. Like this is meant to be a theatrical movie, but either way, it was a movie with John Cena, who is, listen, not a giant movie star, but the guy's in a lot of big movies. He's in a big show for Warner Brothers. The Peacemaker show was a hit show for them. James Gunn. But I feel like you're already poo-pooing the story.
Okay, sorry.
I think it's because when the Batgirl decision was made last year, and I've been thinking about this a lot this weekend. I, in retrospect, honestly feel bad at how flippant we were about the Batgirl move, because we were texting about this. You said it yourself. They came for Batgirl and we said nothing. And now here we are where this James Gunn produced John Cena movie is sent to the Jerry Lewis Holocaust Clown vault to never be seen again. I think
Roger Avery's Glitterati.
With Glitterati, yes. And I do think this is a huge deal for several reasons. And the biggest one is Warner Brothers right now seems like a complete disaster of a studio. And not to pile on to the all rich people are evil, blah, 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 but this David Zaslov running Warner Brothers is someone who I think at this point has to go. Not just because of his decision, but putting the studio that made Goodfellas into this position where they are just fully a laughingstock is, I think, just a detriment to the whole movie industry.
Yeah, I think here's where, okay, let's get the facts right money-wise. $70 million production, they took a $30 million write-down.
Yep, great. So I was pretty much, I was pretty close on my guesstimate of the budget when I said 80 or 90 million. Yeah.
So I think here's where we agree and here's where we disagree. Okay. This movie would have done jack shit at the box office because no one gives a fuck about the Looney Tunes. But John Cena, hold on.
Okay, I'll let you speak, but this is going to be our biggest disagreement of all time.
No, let me speak. John Cena is not a star. He does not put butts in seats. We've seen this. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
When does he put butts in seats, my friend?
I
know you're going to say kids movies, but those movies that he was in did not have $70 million budgets, okay? Here's the thing. The Looney Tunes are as dead as the Muppets. They might as well be used to wax Zaslov's car if they were actually physical. I mean, Muppets, you can Bob Iger can get a nice wax with the Muppets. That's what they're good for. Those two IPs are worth jack shit. Here's where we agree. Is that you need to be in the movie business to make movies. If you want to make money, then you should be in the porta potty business. If Zaslov wants to be the sort of person he is, where he's taking tax write-offs and he's doing all these things just to make money and save money, then he should be in the portable crapper business, not in the movie business. Because, like you said, Warner Brothers, there was a level of, we're going to invest in these artists. We're going to invest in Clint. We're going to invest in Ben Affleck until he made one bad movie and then they threw him overboard. We're going to invest in filmmakers. And what Zaslov is doing is he doesn't give a shit what's being made. He only is looking at dollars. And that is bad for a movie company. Okay. That's where we agree, is that it doesn't matter that I think this movie is going to make jack shit. I think it's important that the head of the studio is like, we like this movie. We believe in this movie. We want to be in a good place with this star and this writer and this producer. And we're going to put this out in theaters because that's what movie companies do.
Well, totally agree there, though. I think that of course it could have bombed. Of course.
It would have
anything
bombed.
could bomb. It could have bombed.
Would have.
The word that you hear a lot on this since this news broke is a lot of people who've seen it saying it's really good. And listen, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but that's a thing you didn't when the Back Row movie came out, and maybe there's other factors as why you weren't hearing that. The word of people who saw it was that was a pretty bad movie. And maybe there were other factors, maybe people were biased against it for whatever reasons, but you never heard any defenders of this was really great. You know, the quality of this, it would have done well. You are hearing a lot of that about this movie. And I know the Looney Tunes IP is what it is, but it could be good. It's a good idea. This maybe everyone who said the test scores apparently were really high. People who saw it like this movie. You say it wouldn't have done anything. If a movie's good, it has recognizable IP. Listen, again, you're the guy who a few weeks out was saying Barbie was going to open at $30 million. The Looney Tunes are not Barbie. John Cena is not Margot Robbie, all that. But this is a $30 million write-off, betting that this movie in movie theaters couldn't possibly have made a profit versus $30 million write-off. It's like you said, if you're a movie studio, you have to put these movies out.
Yeah.
Because in the end, say this movie came out and made $20 million total. And so what do you make? And of course, I know there's marketing costs to put a movie in the movie theaters. But if you're penny pinching because you just think that this $30 million write-off will probably make you more money by $1 million or $2 million than what you would get if you put this movie out in theaters, fold up the entire studio. Fold up the entire studio. And like you said, and that's the thing with David Zaslov is he just happens to be in charge of the movie studio.
Yeah.
But for him, he's a guy who 5 years from now will not be in the entertainment business. He'll be a CEO because once you're a CEO for life, and he'll be running a phone company or a butt plug company or, you know, some kind of like data mining hat company, something like that. And he'll be making $80 million a year and he'll be a CEO. He's not going to be in the movie business.
Yes.
But right now, Warner Brothers is stuck with him being the head of the studio. And that is at this point, I think like I do think this movie being shelved is a huge problem for the movie business because this is a movie testing well, you know, recognizable IP, recognizable star. James Gunn, huge name talent as a writer producer on this. And if this movie is shelved, I do think at this point anything could possibly shelved. Like again,
Superman could get shelved. Yes.
Superman could get shelved. Wile E. Coyote is not Barbie, but there is a world where a few months before Barbie comes out, David Zaslov looks at that movie and says, you know what? We'll get X amount of dollars if we never put Barbie in theaters. There is a world in which David Zaslov never put Barbie in the movie theaters because this is not, this comes down to, it's something he needs to do at the end of the year to ensure that the stockholders get a certain amount of dividend. He gets a bonus. And again, not to sound someone who's, well, corporations are all evil. They are, but not to make that the reason I'm
No,
saying this.
yeah.
No, but it's all comes down to, in this moment, end of year, he shelved this movie because it'll do X, Y, and Z for him. And if things broke differently, that would have been Barbie. Because to
See,
him, he doesn't know the difference between any of
yeah.
these movies. Batgirl, Barbie, Wile E. Coyote versus Acme, they're all the same thing. So if Barbie was being released at a time where it would have made sense for him to write it off as a tax refund, that would have happened. And I think that is the thing that this story, why this is such a giant story, because any movie Warner Brothers makes could possibly get Batgirl, could possibly get Acme Coyote. It could have been Barbie. It could
Yeah,
be any movie.
I
Any
think
movie.
that is such a great point, because if you're James Gunn and you are now in charge of DC and you wrote this movie and you shepherded this movie and your boss says, "Oh, well, you know what? It's not worth it to release this, so we're going to take the $30 million."
Which is so
That
small.
that that does not inspire confidence,
Right.
right, in what you're trying to do with DC. It also keeps other artists away because,
Yes.
remember, Nolan left Warner Brothers because of their
Yep.
day and date strategy, and
Yep.
he had a huge. He's bigger than he has ever been. He is bigger
Yes.
now than he was when he was doing Batman movies. Okay,
100%. a hundred
and
percent.
so he is a guy you want to come and work for your company and make money and make movies for you. And he left Warner Brothers, and that is a stain on them. And
Yes.
that's so
He
it's one of
saw it
those
coming.
things.
Nolan saw this coming. He saw
It's
Zaslov. He and this is not my saying, this is the you saying. He read him for filth. He looked at David Zaslov and he read him for filth back in the
mhm.
summer of 2020, 2021. He knew what David Zaslov was about to do at Warner Brothers, and he got the hell out of there. And Nolan was our dead horse that we were kicking to a pulp back at the time of Tenet.
But
But that guy, he saw the future when it came to Warner Brothers.
yeah, and that's the thing, is that he is taking short money. He is taking short
Yes.
money and not think, because the reason you said it exactly, because the guy's not going to be there in 3 years, because
No.
he's a corporate bozo
Yes.
who does this for a living. He comes
Yes.
to companies and he cuts the fat, and then he leaves and he goes somewhere else, and he doesn't
Yes.
care how it looks to us as people who care about movies.
His previous role, the way that he became the head of the studio that made Goodfellas, the studio that made Clockwork Orange, Warner Brothers, one of the most famous movie studios of all time. He came to it as the guy who was the head of Discovery, the network that brought you Dr. Pimple Popper. And then
Mhm.
the reason Warner Brothers is in such giant debt is not because that Warner Brothers the last 10, 20 years has had a bad run at the movies, not because their TV shows weren't making money, not because HBO subscribers were going down. None of that is true. Warner Brothers, as a movie studio, as a TV network, HBO, those were all doing fine. The reason the company's in debt is because the cell phone company bought Warner Brothers years ago and then didn't want to run a movie studio anymore. And Discovery, which is a 10th rate conglomeration of cable networks,
They make
bought
trash. They make
bought
nothing good. They all make trash.
they all make trash, and they're also not as big as people thought they were. They
Mhm.
bought Warner Brothers by going into debt. They were a smaller company buying a bigger company, so just filling up with debt in order to make that deal. So therefore, the Warner Brothers company now has all this debt that he has to deal with, by getting rid of movies. So the Warner Brothers movie studio is in trouble by no fault of being a movie studio. This is
No,
not because the
no.
Harry Potter movies didn't make enough money.
Yeah.
That is not the reason why Warner Brothers movie studio is in such trouble. It only has to do with David Zaslav buying them with Discovery. Listen, that is a simplified version of it, but that is basically it. Zaslov,
Yep.
by nature of him wanting to own it, put them into debt and is
And
now just canning movies, sending them to the Holocaust clown Jerry Lewis vault so that
yeah.
he could make up some of the debt that he created.
And I agree. I agree that this movie is going to symbolize something more than it actually is,
It
right?
has to.
And I totally agree that we were too glib when it came to Batwoman. We were glib.
We were glib. We
We
were
were
glib.
glib.
We were glib.
And
Hashtag
and
forgive us, Batgirl.
yes. And I think, it goes back to the Scorsese Apple thing where everybody's blasting us and blasting Apple for Scorsese. This movie being theatrical, it didn't make as much much money as Oppenheimer, and blah blah. It's a failure, blah blah. And we went over this and we said it. It's because Apple wants to be in the movie making business,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
want to be with someone like Scorsese because Scorsese brings other people. You
Yes.
know what? Taking a $30 million write down on a Looney Tunes movie does? It dissuades anybody
Right.
who thought they could go to Warner Brothers and make a movie that they wanted to make and have
Right.
any sort of artistic expression in this corporate environment. It is
I mean,
going to lose them money in the long run. And guess
yes.
what, though? It doesn't matter to him because Zaslov is going to be on some fucking beach somewhere
Yes. Yes.
or in
Yes.
another corporate boardroom
He'll be
doing the same shit.
yes. Yes. He'll be selling, electric porta potties,
Yeah.
and he'll be the
Which
CEO of
is a
that
business he
company.
should be in.
He
That's what I'm
should be in. I
saying.
would I would love it if he was the one who was the CEO of the porta potty that I sit on. Well,
Yes.
I'll never sit on a porta potty, but you're working in the, down in the salt mines and you're covered in soot. So you need a great porta potty company out there. And
Yeah.
I that's what David Zaslav should be doing. But look at Barbie. Warner
Mhm.
Brothers, big hit that. Again, we look at it, that movie could have been shelved if it was scheduled at a certain point of the year where David Zaslav was looking for a tax refund.
Mhm.
Greta Gerwig directs the biggest movie of the year, one of the biggest, sort of directorial box office hits of the decade. And in the past, that would have been a director that Warner Brothers builds a building for on the studio lot and says,
Yes.
your next 10 years worth of movies, we're here for you. And that didn't happen. She went to Netflix, and we hate that because Netflix doesn't put movies in the movie theaters. But I think that shows you the state of Warner Brothers and the way this town and the big talent looks at David Zaslav. The fact that Greta Gerwig, coming off of Barbie, didn't immediately get signed to a Warner Brothers deal, that she
Yeah.
didn't want it, that they didn't move heaven and earth to make that happen. That shows you what the big talent in Hollywood think of Warner Brothers, and it's only getting worse coming off of this Acme v. Coyote situation.
And you know what? Is Clint still is Clint doing Juror number 2 with Warner Brothers?
I'm not sure because coming off of his last movie, Warner Brothers made it sound like they were out of the Clint business. I
Cry
don't know if
Macho.
Juror number 2, yeah, after Cry Macho, is a Warner Brothers film. That's the one where someone's on a jury and they
Nicholas Holt
realize
is on
that
the jury.
Nicholas Holt is on a jury, and and yes, that is being distributed by Warner Brothers. It may never come out. That movie, this Clint Eastwood directed film starring Nicholas Holt, great premise. Someone's on a jury, and as the case starts, they realize they're the one who committed the crime. Amazing premise. Clint Eastwood, one of the best directors of all time. Nicholas Holt, not a box office star, but a really fine actor.
Mhm.
That movie, Juror number 2, it's Warner Brothers. There's no guarantee that movie will ever be seen by anyone other than test screenings and Allison Eastwood.
I'll tell you what. If Juror number 2 becomes a casualty of Zaslav, I do think that's when Hollywood does stand up.
Well, that's when Zaslov becomes a casualty of
Clint
Clint
Eastwood.
Eastwood's Magnum. Yes,
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Now juror number 2 is supposed
he
to be his
should go
final
out that
film.
way. Honestly, Clint Eastwood going out murdering a billionaire studio head.
Well, be careful. Be careful here. Be careful here.
No,
Be
no.
careful.
Okay, you're right. You're right. You're right. I'm just saying, in a movie, that's a great movie
Yes,
for him. Is what I'm saying. It's a
because
great movie for Clint Eastwood.
you almost stepped in it there.
But
Juror,
I
you
of course
sidestepped it. No.
sidestepped it. Yeah.
There's no shit on the boot.
No.
Juror number 2 is supposed to be Clint's final film. It's not going to be his final film, huh?
No. Huh.
There's no way. If juror number 2 comes out, it's a hit, which I think it could be.
Great
Because The
premise.
Mule made over $100 million not that long ago. Okay?
But hey, Zaslov could get a $15 million tax write-down on juror number 2.
And that's the thing. If that happens, if they do a tax write-down on juror number 2, which is Clint's final film, I think all hell breaks loose. I think that's the one. If Batwoman didn't do it and ACME didn't do it, juror number 2 will do it. And
Yeah.
you know what? You're right. The fact that juror number 2 ain't safe, that makes Warner Brothers and Zaslov look like idiots.
Yeah. He said
Doofuses.
it. You said it. Wow. I mean, talk about cutting the shit.
Yeah.
Talk about cutting the shit there. Yeah. I do think this story is going to get bigger because, again, people in the industry do seem mad. And I think it is because the people have seen this. Apparently, this is a good, fun movie. Is this likely a best pick? Of course not.
It's going to get better and better with retelling. Come on, this thing is probably going to be fine. All right, let's not, because the quality of this movie means nothing.
No, I do think it. Well, listen, no matter what, this movie should have been released. But I do think there is a difference between a movie that if everyone sees and they're like, man, this is damaging if we put this out, versus a movie that is probably pretty good for what it is. You know, this is not trying to be an Oscar movie. It's trying to be a family comedy animation at live action hybrid comedy movie. If by all accounts, this movie succeeds in what it was supposed to do and it still gets shelved, that is a bigger deal than if it's a disaster, because there have always been movies that have been disasters and then they get shelved to some degree. They wind up in video stores. They wind up somewhere, you know, this is a different case where you can never see it again. But bad movies have always had their releases tabled, reduced, whatever. That's part of the movie making business. But a movie that is really good and or good, you know, succeeds in what it was supposed to do, which I believe this movie probably did. And listen, it was co-written by James Gunn, so why would we think it didn't pull it off? He's a good comedy movie writer, so I'm sure this is pretty good. And this is the type of thing that, for whatever Cena does well, this is probably his wheelhouse. Right.
Yes.
So I would bet those reports are probably accurate-ish. This is probably good. And that I do think makes this worse because nothing is safe. You know what I mean? Nothing Warner Brothers makes is safe. A filmmaker after Batgirl could say to themselves or be told by Warner Brothers executives, hey, listen, that was really a disaster. We couldn't show it. You know, this would harm the brands. It was really, really bad. If people in Hollywood believe that this ACME movie was good, then they go into any deal with Warner Brothers knowing nothing they do can guarantee the movie they make will be released. It doesn't matter if they succeed or not.
And well, that harms theatrical because then you have people like Bradley Cooper going to Netflix. You have Greta Gerwig going to Netflix, right? Why was Maestro not Warner Brothers?
Yes.
Right? And it's like,
Warner Brothers not having Cooper and Greta Gerwig in the stable after Star is Born and Barbie. I mean, obviously the Cooper thing wasn't Zaslov, but I do think Gerwig not making a movie for Warner Brothers coming off of Barbie, that's Zaslov. Yeah. That's Zaslov. That's her not having any faith in this Warner Brothers regime.
10, 15 years ago, Maestro gets made at Warner Brothers. It just does. Right. You know, because that's a place where Cooper would want to be.
Right.
Now it's like, who knows? So when people are glib, when we were glib about Batwoman and people are glib about ACME,
Batgirl,
sorry. people are glib about Batgirl and glib about Acme. I mean, this is going to reverberate through theatrical just in general because it's going to
Yes.
send these really great filmmakers to streaming
Yes.
where their movies are going to die and where the actual, joy of going to see a movie in a theater is going to die. I mean, that's the problem.
And listen, maybe that's the worst case. Greta Gerwig and Bradley Cooper ending up on Netflix rather than theatrical releases. That's the worst case scenario. I mean,
Yes.
it kills us that Greta Gerwig's post Barbie movie is not going to get box office.
Mhm.
But maybe there will be the cases like with Christopher Nolan going to Universal to make Oppenheimer, where there will be big filmmakers, big talent who would have went to Warner Brothers and will make their movies at Universal, at Apple, which is a streamer, but gives you a real theatrical releases. Napoleon is coming out in a few weeks, and
Yeah.
it's being treated as just a big old movie
Love
in
it.
big old theaters. And Universal, Paramount, and studios that are still releasing big movies. Maybe Universal will just continue to benefit. They'll
Mhm.
steal away the Nolans. Maybe Bradley Cooper gets the Leonard Bernstein thing out of his system, and his next movie is Universal, God
Or
willing,
Sony. Who knows? Sony.
or Sony, and of course
Sony's doing
Sony.
good things.
So, but it just this story, I do think it ain't over. I do think this is going to
Oh,
have
no.
legs, and you've got people like James Gunn's going to have to keep his mouth shut because he wants to make these DC movies. He wants to make Superman.
Yeah.
But and John Cena, listen, he's a good soldier and he's got Peacemaker, but I think those are people who are so well liked in the industry. Of course, John Cena's not a giant movie star and all that, but he is someone who I think it sends a shiver down the spine of big talent when they see a movie starring John Cena, produced and written by James Gunn, that gets the Holocaust clown vault treatment. Because
Yeah.
for the grace of God, that could be me.
Oh, yeah,
That
because
is
I
what
mean,
they're thinking.
again, I like Cena, and I think he's really good in things. Again, not butts in the seats, but yeah, he is a guy that, from all we've heard, easy to work with,
Yep.
does great work,
Yep.
and that doesn't matter. It's not like here's this guy who's a big asshole, so let's
Exactly.
stick it to him,
Right.
right? And it's like this isn't Mickey Rourke.
This
This is
isn't Mickey
John
Rourke.
Cena.
If
Okay.
Zaslov shelved a Mickey Rourke movie, Hollywood would be like, and if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see what I'm doing. I'm doing the hitting the inside of my elbow movement, which is like F you. I'm
Yeah,
doing
it's an
that.
Italian thing. It's an ethnic thing.
It's an ethnic thing. So you got to watch us on YouTube to see that. That's what Hollywood would be saying to Mickey Rourke if Zaslov shelved a Mickey Rourke star. But John
Mhm.
Cena, everyone loves John Cena.
Yeah.
Everyone loves John Cena. Yeah, I mean, we'll be covering this Acme v. Wiley Coyote. The other thing that the reporting is saying is that there were offers from other studios to buy this, and I think that is what's scary here. Is
Yes.
that this is not a Batgirl situation where obviously you can't really sell that movie because it's DC and
Yeah.
it's other studios wanted to buy this movie to release it, whether it's on their streamers, or theatrical. It's not that clear, but there was interest out there, offers on the table. Let us buy this movie. And Warner Brothers, Zaslov said, nope, tax write off. We need that immediate cash.
We need the $30 million.
$30
And
million.
listen, I wouldn't laugh at $30 million if it was in my bank account. But when
Of
you're
course
talking
not.
about a company this big, $30 million is a piss in a bucket.
But they've got hundreds of millions of debt just by virtue of Zaslov wanting to buy it 3 years ago.
Yep.
So they are just in full penny pinching mode. This is going to be a huge story. I actually do. I mean, I guess it's got to stick, because it's the U.S. government's involved. It's tax situation. You can't just last minute say, "Oh no, we renege on that," and it's dropping on HBO Max next week. And we'll pay you. That's not going to happen. But Here's what I predict. I do think this is a movie that could get leaked. You know, I think that there is such a, and it didn't happen with Batgirl, but
Well,
it,
because that again, I think that was embarrassing for all parties. I mean,
it was,
here's my big take on that one. You know, only from word of mouth.
yeah,
Brendan Fraser don't win no Oscar if that movie gets leaked. That's a
possibly not.
Norbit situation.
That's a Norbit situation. Although he won for Norbit situation. So I don't know. I
It's
don't know.
true.
Brendan
He
Fraser
actually
could
did
have been
win for
Norbiting.
Norbit, so that does put a
Yeah.
wrinkle into it.
Yeah, I think Brendan Fraser was actually Norbit proof last year, even if Batgirl was bad and came out. But there's such an uproar right now about this ACME v Coyote movie.
Mhm.
I do wonder if it gets leaked, if something happens at the 11th hour. But we'll be covering this.
Well,
So
I'll be checking Pornhub for it.
yeah, and only for that. But we
Yep,
have to do it
I have
for
to.
our listeners. We have
Mhm.
to check Pornhub to see if the Wile E. Coyote movie gets leaked there.
Yeah.
And that is the only leaking we will be looking for on Pornhub.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. When we search leakage on Pornhub,
Yeah.
it is because we're looking for the Wile E. Coyote v. Acme movie on there.
Yes.
Yes, 100%. So listen, Clayton, we've got to get to the After BO, the web
Yes.
exclusive on YouTube. We got to get to that. And on that show, I'll just tease it right here. We're going to be talking Saturday Night Live, the
Mhm.
new episode starring Timothy Chalamet. Full review of that episode over on the YouTube channel on the After BO. But I think just on this episode, we just have to at least just mention, because this is so specific to the BO Boys podcast show. And a listener reached out to me about this already, that at the end of this episode, Timothy Chalamet hosted Saturday Night Live. And I mean, I'm kind of shaking just saying this because I couldn't believe that it happened. During the good nights, he ended the show. And this is, mind you, on live national television. I cannot stress this enough. Saturday Night Live, live national television. Timothy Chalamet, who once wore the iconic legendary hoodie as an act of protest, he came out wearing an Oompa hoodie on SNL to close the show this week.
Now, was
He
it an
wore an Oompa hoodie.
Oompa hoodie or a sweater?
It was a hooded sweatshirt. It was
Well,
not a
that's a
zip up
hoodie.
hoodie. So it was a hoodie, not a zip up hoodie. It was like a pullover hoodie.
Okay.
You know
It's
what I
still a
mean?
hoodie.
It's still a hoodie. It was a hoodie with the pockets that I think don't have a middle in them. So you could like go all the way across. You know, you put your hands in the pockets and you could just go all the way out the other end. I think it was that type of hoodie, but it was a pullover hoodie, not a zip up hoodie.
Okay.
So a different hoodie, that because the iconic legendary hoodie he wore back in 2021 to protest the Warner Brothers Day and Date release of Dune, that was a zip up hoodie. And this Saturday he wore an Oompa hoodie.
I don't think it was a protest. I think it was a celebration hoodie.
Yes, this was a celebratory hoodie.
Okay.
This was a celebratory hoodie. So but the thing is, he did it again. He did it again on live national television. He went out there with a hoodie that made news. He wore the Oompa hoodie. And
Definitely we'll talk about this in the After BO.
yeah. So we got to get to that. So of course, everyone, if you haven't already, subscribe to the BO Boys YouTube channel. You see me making the ethnic gesture, that FU gesture of putting my hand on my inner elbow. So you could see that on the YouTube version of the show. Of course, we've got the web exclusive After BO show. We'll be talking SNL right after this. So you got to subscribe to the YouTube channel.
It's the after show. Who knows what gestures we'll be making?
Yes. Open the gates on the After BO. Anything could happen. So go subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on social medias, of course, TikTok, Twitter X. Wanna BO senior intern Christopher is killing it with the vertical clips there. He's putting clips on our YouTube channel. The man is a clip machine. So, of course, follow us at the BO Boys Pod on Twitter X and TikTok. Of course, email us, theboboyspodcast@gmail.com. Again, thank you, OG BO Boy Austin, for a great email. Guy nailed it on the opening weekend of
Fucking
Marvel.
nailed it.
Fucking nailed it. Fucking nailed it. So thank you, Austin. Email us, theboboyspodcast@gmail.com. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Substack. We have a Substack, and we've got a new article from Wannabe Junior Intern Jack that is going to be going up by the time this episode is up. You'll be seeing the new article on our Substack from Jack, and it is a doozy. It is his thoughts on the opening weekend of the Marvels, and
Love it.
man, he does not hold back. So
Yeah.
we get the youth's perspective. So subscribe at our Substack, link in the show notes, and 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, and I think that's it. I think a huge preview episode possibly coming up with Scott Mendelson, schedule permitting on his end, but it's just a huge time right now for the BO boys.
Oh, absolutely. And just, a Wannabe Boy Austin OG, let's just give a shout out to his movie on Tubi, Slap Straight.
Yes.
Luminary Figures.
Yes.
He's killing it. He's in the business, so he knows the business. That's why he can nail it the way he does.
And here's the thing. I have been watching Slap Straight. It is very funny. Austin is killing in that. He plays a mafia boss. Great performance. I mean, his performance in the movie is on par with his performance as a guest on the BO Boys, which says a lot.
Yes.
So you got to check out Slap Straight on Tubi. And you look at talent like Austin, the people who made Slap Straight, are right now, sure, they're going to have to take a meeting with Warner Brothers. They're going to have to listen to Slap Straight 2 or some of their other ideas. Maybe we make it at Warner Brothers, but they're going to be antsy about it.
Oh, yeah.
They make Slap Straight 2 for Warner Brothers. Does Warner Brothers shelve it? Does it never get to Tubi? Right?
Probably not.
You make a deal with Tubi. Tubi's going to put your movie on Tubi. You make a deal with Warner Brothers, your movie may never be in theaters. Your movie may never be on Max and never be on TNT.
Never seen.
Never seen. We could see Slap Straight because the deal was made with Tubi, but we'll never see James Gunn, John Cena, Coyote v. ACME.